This meeting is being recorded.
We don't hear John.
Can you hear me now?
We do.
Cool. All right, so I'll start again. Welcome, everyone. It's very nice to see all of you here, and hopefully even more people will join us in a while, because we had about 50 registered participants. So that's pretty good. This is the presentation of the results from the movement strategy implementation grant that we applied for from the foundation, and I've been doing since about this summer. Well, we started preparations a little bit before that. But yeah, so we've been working on, compiling the report and this presentation and everything. And Molly has been doing like the brunt of the, post research work, if you will. So she will be doing the presentation as well. I'm just here to give the intro and help her in any way I can. So yeah, the agenda for today is to first, we'll give a short introduction about the Wikimedia Language Diversity Hub, for those who don't know what that is, or aren't too up to date on it. And then I will give it over to Molly, who will explain a little bit about the background for the research and the methods used, and of course the findings. And we will finish it up with some ideas for next steps. For this meeting, we'll be more than happy to answer any questions you have. During, you don't have to wait for the questions until the end of the presentation. But it's nice if you post the questions in the chat, and then I can, keep an eye on the chat and bring questions to Molly instead of people speaking all at the same time, if that's okay. All right. Yeah, so first of all, the Language Diversity Hub is a hub. Well, what is a hub? That's a good question. But that's one of the proposals from the Wikimedia 2030 strategy, is to have hubs for the Wikimedia movement. And so we started this idea in late 2021, and it's building upon the existing Wikimedia Language Diversity Network, which was started in 2012. So it's not a new idea. And the main purpose of the hub is to support and connect affiliates and volunteers to new and smaller language versions of Wikimedia projects. So, it's about the small languages, but how you define what is a small language, it's kind of open, because some languages have like millions of speakers, but almost no internet presence. And some languages are, very small when you count number of speakers as well. So we would like to try to accommodate, all those different scenarios. But what this research is showing is that, a lot of the challenges faced by those communities are similar. So even though they're, how do you say it? Even though their circumstances are different, there are still a lot of similarities in how they can contribute to Wikimedia projects. So yeah, when we started the initiative, we put together like a steering committee, which has even more people than this at the moment, but this is like the initial members and the ones we found pictures of. But yeah, so there's me, Jon Harald, and Molly from Wikimedia Norway, and then all these other people from different parts of the world. Some of you are here, so yeah. I'll give it over to Molly now. So good luck.
Thank you. Okay, so for the steering committee, I would just want to add that each member, I mean, we chose, it was Wikimedia Norway initiating this, and we chose a steering committee based on people we knew were already working within the field. So they would have, and we got some comments that it was a very odd mix of volunteers and foundation people and stuff, but it was like it was the interest in the language question that was the key factor. And I also want to add that Wikitongues joined quite soon after we started, and they have been very valuable in the work that we have done, and for giving insights for the work we've done. But okay, so we wanted to do a research project because, as Jon Harald has said, the hub want to support all these emerging new Wikipedia editions, but how can we support them if we don't know what their problems are? So it's quite basic, and it kind of seems obvious now afterwards, but we spent quite a lot of time to come to that this is the place we start. We had some ideas, of course, what would be their biggest problems. We have some ideas on what are challenges, but if we had to find out. So how to do that? Well, we go out and we ask them. So the first project has been interview with 13 different language communities, and we chose to do interviews because in this way we can, I mean, we have done semi-structured interviews. That means we have had certain questions and certain topics we wanted to cover, but it's important to give space for the communities to share what is more important for them. So it's not like tick the box and move on, but it's a conversation. And it's a conversation where we exchange. So sometimes there might be things we can solve in the middle of it. And this is, I guess, what separates Wikimedia research from normal research, where you're just observing and describing the situation. But with this research, we try to already start doing hub work, thinking this is what the hub should be doing. So we had in designing the interviews thought that there are many different kinds of barriers, so we have to categorize a bit, and we landed on technical, economic, educational knowledge, and social barriers. As you will see, these are mixing in, but this is just a tool to help us, or a framework to help us understand the barriers and ask good questions. So how did we choose the language communities, and which ones were it? Again, within the steering committee, we have the language committee well represented, so they know very well what is going on out there. So we chose communities where we know there is some level of activity. We might know already someone there, or might have an idea how to be able to reach out to them. We wanted the communities to give a global representation, so most areas are represented somehow. Yeah, and that we are able to find someone to interview. What happened was, of course, that in one of the suggestions we weren't able to find, but then someone else showed up, like the Tachelich, that suddenly showed up through someone else knowing we did this research. And of course, that was very good because they represent Arabic French speaking community. So that was also good. Of course, we could have done more, or we could have done less, but this is what we ended up with. And I want to say a big thanks to all the communities that has been interviewed, and to all the interviewers from the group for the work you have done, which has been really nice. So you can actually watch some of the interviews in YouTube. Sadiq has been posting many because he was able to do in-person interviews, and they're very nice. And one thought there was also that to make the language available online, because that is a challenge for many of these smaller languages, is that they don't have much digital presence. So actually recording the interview and publishing it in their language is already increasing visibility. But of course, most of the interviews has been done online on Zoom. The goal was always to make someone that is very close to the community do the interview. It wasn't always possible. And the same is letting contributors use their own language. Also not always possible, but to quite a lot. So it has been a nice experience. And of course, it's a lot of added work doing all the translations, but that is a good experience for us to have. The interviews have been done between August and November last year. And if you have more questions or you want to know more how we do it, feel free to reach out later. So in any research paper, you start with an abstract, right? So this is all you need to know. We wanted to know how can we make Wikipedia better for the small languages. And we found out that the biggest barriers for most of the small languages are outside Wikipedia. So we have to solve very big structural barriers to make contributing in Dagbani or Paiwan or Wajunaiki as easy as it is to contribute in Norwegian or English. That was a quick story. Okay, there we are. So let's go through the different barriers, the categories of barriers. So we came to the technology, which is the biggest one and also the most important, and the ones where we thought we knew what we wanted to do. Maybe we wanted to find things like that button on Wikipedia is complicated, or my language. We need to reorganize this because that works better for us. Of course, that's not what they say. The oral culture is something that most people like the more biggest challenge for many. However, I will say this later again, but it's not the one that is not a challenge that limits them for contributing. So it's a big challenge, but it's not a limit. It's not a barrier for contributing. It just makes it more hard maybe to have sources, all these things, but none of them are saying this is the problem that we need to solve. It's never top three. What is top three is they need more training, they need better keyboards, and the internet and access to equipment is a challenge, and the incubator was or is difficult. I think all the languages except one that we have interviewed has now been published. So they were in the incubator at the time of the interview, but it was the last round now. So I think it's only Angika left in the incubator. Sorry.
And Angika is about to be accepted. So.
And Angika is coming soon, so wonderful. That's very good. So as I said, the oral culture mentioned by many as a challenge, it is a challenge, of course, but it is not one of the main barriers that is problematic, that limits their ability to have a digital presence. I also have included, but no links or anything, but there is ongoing projects in the movement to solve this. So things are happening, and we hope it will help them. Need more training, come up very big and in many different settings throughout the interviews. It is a top challenge for many of the communities. Some of them will have specific challenges, like we want to learn to make templates, but most of them would have like a need of general skill development. That means like increasing the technological skills, or increasing need more training and understanding how to write an article, or some of them would also express some sort of low confidence, like a bit afraid on how to use it. And the question that I think we should ask ourselves is the platform too difficult? Is that a bigger, I mean, and the reason we ask that is this is not only a problem for contributors to small languages, but someone is saying it's also a problem for young contributors that doesn't have the same experience with computers from the 20s, they are from 20 years ago. They have more higher or different expectations to what to meet on a platform. And the other thing that we started reflecting on after the interview is, of course, have we been a bit too optimistic in asking these questions? Because if your skills are low, or you don't feel confident, or you have too much admiration for the platform and you look very much up to the ones who are good at this, you might not be in a position where you're saying, hey, your platform is not good enough. You need to improve this. So that's good to bring on to the next research projects, I think. The incubator is more difficult to use than the normal Wikipedia. And when we talk to people and saying, these new emerging communities are using the incubator, they say, but why are they using the incubator when it's so difficult? And it's like, but that's what we have to offer, right? So if we want more smaller languages, we need to improve the incubator. And then the question we want to ask is, who is responsible for it? Do we have a good system for improving the incubator? Is it prioritized? And how do we improve it? How do we choose what needs to be done? That we will come back to that a bit later. And I also want to point out that the Wajunaiki community has pointed out this portal that has been made by Wikimedia Venezuela, the Lenguas Indígenas, as very useful. And I don't know if you have seen it. It was presented in the Arctic Knot as well. It looks very nice, and I think it might be something that can be used for more communities. Yeah. I should not. Yeah. Equipment. More than half of the small language communities are using mobile phones as a main method of editing Wikipedia. It seems to be a global variation, but we have felt, but again, this is a very small sample, so I'm not sure if it reflects well, but it seems like Asia and Europe is more desktop oriented. Africa and South America more mobile, but then there are variations, of course, within the regions as well. It is also clear that the general computer skills are lower in those areas where there is less access to desktop computers. Economy. 75% of the contributors say that the economy is limiting their ability to contribute to Wikipedia. I have not seen any numbers for contributors to English Wikipedia, but I think I don't think it's even. I have a feeling that we don't barely reflect on that money can be a limitation, because internet is so easily accessible in the Western world, and we have time because we have time. Work balance, let's call it work-life balance, and these things are a topic. And
what is that?
It's for Wikipedians that work in Wikimedia, there is only life and there is no work. But we have to take into account that this is a challenge for many, and we have to see how this barrier can be overcome. And there are different reasons why economy is a limiting factor. One thing is that you don't have time because you work. One thing is that it's costly to access internet. Data packs are expensive. And the other one is that there is a low tradition for volunteering. People might need to feel they get something back more than the good feeling of doing something for others. I think that there is many ways of solving this. But it's interesting to have in mind. Okay, and then the social, and of course this one is very closely related to both economy and the technology. So I'm going to talk about the too few contributors part, because as you see, that is in almost all the communities would say that. Some of them are small, as I say, because there are few language speakers. So in this case, it's not much we can do. But as Jon-Harald also mentioned, some of the small languages are actually spoken by a lot of people. I mean, many, many, many people. And here, all the other barriers come into place on how to make them grow, like the technology and everything. So, but here I think we have a lot of tools within the movement to actually solve them. There is a lot of initiatives to do community building, to volunteer support network. Wikitongues has activities. Art and Feminism is doing activities. The different chapters and user groups are doing activities. So I don't think the hub is the only solution, but we have a lot to play on here. It's also interesting that in some communities, there might be 3 or 4 contributors and they have never met. I was talking to one community and I was trying to assess the gender balance, and they would say they don't actually know. Like from the username, it's impossible to deduct. They can have a feeling based on the subjects they are editing maybe, but they actually don't know each other. So there are Wikipedias that are basically written by 3 people and they don't know each other. It's quite fascinating. And then I think this is the last of the challenges parts, the educational. So we try to ask how is the situation for the language in your community? And there's a very big variation here, because in some languages, some regions, the languages have very low status, so they are taught at very young level, and then they switch to maybe English because you need to know English to have a future or to study, or so that's very interesting. Others, and I mean quite a lot, 5 of these languages report that there is no standardized written form in the language, and of course then it's quite hard to work on Wikipedia. And challenges with language knowledge is included because of the difficulty that someone has to translating terminology or developing new terminology. And this is quite interesting. I mean, and then we're talking about words like files and folders or edit, or words that we are so used to using, and many are just adopting the English versions. But for many communities, there has been quite a lot of time consuming to find good terminology in their own language. So that's something that I think as a hub, as a movement, we should be very mindful of, because it's also an opportunity to contribute to the language development of these languages, because developing good digital terms will benefit the whole language communities. Okay. So in all this work, we have been looking at all the problems, all the challenges, everything that makes it difficult. And through the whole, but through all the interviews, there is so much joy, right? There is so much enthusiasm. And so through, from the interviews, I've been trying to identify, but why are you doing this? With all the challenges that you experience, with all the barriers that are there, why do you do it? And this has, we would ask in interviews. I've also asked other people outside the interviews just to hear. And it comes down to these 4 steps. It's bringing knowledge about my culture, my language, my people, and my corner of the world to the rest of the world. Sharing who we are. It's about conserving the knowledge about the culture, history, and traditions for the coming generations, for the young. It's about revitalizing languages. That can be a lot of things, but in the end, it's keeping the languages alive. And it's the sense of doing something for your language, for your people, for your culture. And this is quite powerful motivations. I sent this report to a linguist that we know very well, that I will talk a lot about later. And he gave me one feedback that I really, really took to my heart. And that is, this report is not at all good enough at reflecting the sensational work that is done by the contributors to all these languages, considering all the barriers that they encounter, or you in some cases here. You are actually editing on a Wikipedia, and it's really sensational. These are the words of Trond Trosterud, who has 23 years of experience working with language technology for minority languages. And he said that the results that you have achieved with these Wikipedias in your languages is way beyond any expectations he would have had, considering the circumstances that you're in. So a big, how to say, congratulations, or an enormous respect to everyone who is actually doing this work. And I will make sure to include that every time we are communicating about this in the future. Yeah. So there is so much to do. We have seen all these barriers. Who are gonna fix it? As I mentioned earlier now, within this movement, we have so much experience, we have so much skills, and so many resources, both human resources, but also technical and monetary resources. We have ways to support the language communities. The question is who and how, and I think there is already so many things going on, right? So in all this work, I've very often stopped thinking, oh, but someone is already doing this, I don't need to. We have a problem, I guess, that things might go on somewhere and they might not know it in another part. We need to connect better the experiences that is being done. So that is one of the roles I imagine the hub can fill. But I want to have a very open mind to how we can fill this hub, and I want to invite absolutely everyone to share how to use the hub. Yeah, but we have, of course, proposed some next steps, and these are proposed from the steering committee and the observing members. Many people have commented that in the report we could have emphasized those next steps more, but I really want to make room for everyone to grab their opportunity to do something. It's the hub can do a part, but there are so many people and so many parts of the movement that can do their part, and what we need is to maybe ensure that we collaborate well and we have a good flow of communications. So, but these are the ones we have suggested. We were thinking on like a needs assessment. We think that the support to these small new language communities is best when it comes from someone very close to them. It doesn't make sense to send a Norwegian or anyone for that matter around the world to support people in very different cultures, in very different contexts. The best is that the local user groups or chapters can support, or someone that is close. If there is no one local, find someone closer. So the needs assessment is, how can we as a hub go in and ask them, what support do you need from us? What knowledge do you lack to be able to support the minority languages in your region? This is, of course, a bit of opposite psychology as well, right? Because maybe they're not aware that that is something they should do, and we can invite people to think on that. So it's a needs assessment with a little hidden agenda. We want to improve the incubator, and Jon Harald will present more on his thoughts there. We want to build a network of linguists, and I have added language technologists here, and you will understand why later. And this is something that we want to do with Wikitongues, where I think we have a lot of ways to work together. We want to expand on this work, doing these kind of interviews with more language communities, and maybe on more projects. This is to document some sort of evolution or development, and also to build a network, to build like a relation, so the hub gets stronger. We definitely need to start defining governance and building what is the role of the hub. How can this hub be a structure that reflects well all the language communities? How can we make sure everyone is included without ending up being so big that we're not doing anything? So there is a job that we want to initiate quite soon. And the last point, which is certainly not the least, is we want to build on the infrastructure to make keyboards and language technology available on more minority or smaller languages. And that part I will dive deeper into, because I already introduced Trond Rosterud, and I will talk more about his research project and how it's not his research project, it's his work, his research center, and how we can benefit from that in the hub. So now I will give the word back to Jon Harald to talk about the incubator.
All right, thank you. So, as most of you are probably aware, the Wikimedia Incubator is where new projects, new language editions of Wikimedia projects have to go to, get approved. And it was started in 2006. Before that, the kind of stuff that goes on in the incubator actually happened on Meta. So the incubator was mainly created to sort of alleviate Meta of all that traffic from new language editions of Wikipedia, because there was quite a lot of activity. Yeah, and one of the problems of the Wikimedia Incubator is that it basically hosts many, many different wikis in the same wiki. So it has like this elaborate system of using prefixes for every page to indicate what test wiki, as they're called, that the page is part of. And this is well-intentioned and everything, but the end result is that it makes it harder to contribute to an emerging Wikimedia project than it is to contribute to an existing wiki. And that's really, upside down from the way it should be, because it should be even easier for people who are writing on a brand new wiki to do their things, because, those people don't necessarily have the skills that people in the existing Wikimedia communities have. Which was kind of different back in 2006, because most of the people who were working on these new Wikipedia editions, or they were already experienced Wikimedians in a way, like they had experience from other languages. But nowadays we see a lot of new contributors who don't really have any Wikimedia experience, and they want to write in their own language, and we send them to the incubator, which is even more difficult than it is otherwise. So we really need to do something about it. And I've been doing a lot, on my spare time, trying to fix various issues. But I'd love for, if anyone has like technical skills, I'd love for someone to collaborate with on that, because I can't do everything by myself. Yeah. I think that's it from me on this.
Let's go.
Yeah. Okay. So we like I'll say, if anyone wants to join or have very strong opinions on what should be done, reach out. That's a quick message. Yeah. So what happened was that last year when we had when we started this work, we also had a board meeting, and Trond Trosterud that I introduced earlier, he was there, and I told him a bit about our work. And I say it like almost as a joke that maybe he could fix a keyboard, because I knew he had fixed the Sami keyboards. I said, maybe you can fix one more. And he said, of course, he can fix a keyboard. And it turns out that they are building his job is actually as a linguist at the University of Tromsø and as head of Gelatekno, which is the research group for Sami language technology. So he has been working for years on building a good language model for the different Sami languages. And building keyboards and spell checks and I don't know what, a lot of different things. So he said they have, of course, it belongs to the story that Trond is a Wikipedian. He has been contributing for years and years, and of course also share the open source and this sharing mentality. So when he's building something, he thinks, how can he build, or how can they create something that can be used by more people, that can benefit even more? So they're basically preparing infrastructure where it should be quite easy to onboard new languages, produce keyboards, and using the same kind of models or functions. Or I'm way outside my comfort zone when it comes to terminology here, so sorry for that. But I imagine it's like a machine. You put information in and out from this Gelatekno Divun system. You get digital tools that people are not even dreaming about. So we have almost, so this kind of started in the middle of the research, and we want to really continue that path. I mean, we will continue that path somehow, in a hub or outside a hub or whatever is the name of it. That is a very, very, we think that with this we can produce some very good tools that can overcome some of these barriers that we have seen. So it's kind of a small project in some ways. We have now taken all these barriers and we are just focusing on this one. But it is, of course, because we are in a position where Trond is knocking on our door. He actually said he didn't want to continue being in the board of Wikimedia Norge because he would rather do this. So we are in a very good position for making this progress. And yeah, and what more? Yeah, so it's really cool, right? So he came by the office on Wednesday, and he has like stars in his eyes when he thinks on all the languages that can start using their tools. So they are funded from the Norwegian government to focus on the Sami languages, and he said he will use his spare time to support all the others if people start complaining that he spends too much. So I mean, it's a fantastic resource for us and for this work. And he introduced this idea on Wednesday. He said that to be able to develop good language technology, we need this triangle. We need the linguists, like him, like Gelatekno. The linguists, they are motivated. They have like an internal motivation to take part because they want to develop language models. They want to test them. They have theories. They can use it from their linguistic interest. Then we need the technology experts, the one that can help the technology come to life and take again, I'm a bit outside how this works, but we need the technology experts. And then we need activists. And how does this look like? If we think of the Inari Sami movement or Wikipedia, which is very active, that we have interviewed here. They are very small, but they are working very closely to Gela Techno and to Divun, which is the language technology center. So in this model, you have the activists. They are the ones writing on Wikipedia. They are producing language material. You have the linguists that are analyzing and developing the models, testing the models. That's Gela Techno. They're also producing a lot of reports, and I will share with you a lot of these reports that they have produced. And then you have Divun that are actually building the technology. So as a hub, we want to be like the connecting part here, where we are finding the activists in the wiki movement, working with the linguists, both in Gela Techno, but also with the linguists outside, like that are experts on the local languages, and then finding local technology experts, but also the ones from Divun. So we can really, there is a very interesting network here that we are able to be a part of. That basically, even though we haven't known Trond for all these years, it was this research project that initiated this kind of thinking that we could collaborate. So maybe that is the most, from our side in Wikimedia Norge and our corner of the language hub, this is where we are more motivated. I see a hand, so I will let you talk. Sadeep, if you want to say something now.
Yes, I just wanted to add a bit to what you just shared about Gela Techno, that we are also exploring a partnership with Endangered Alphabets to be a part of the larger initiative around supporting minority languages and scripts writing systems. So this is something that came up in one of the conversations, for instance, with the Kashmiri community, where they said some of the characters that they're adding to Wikipedia don't exist in the keyboards they're using. And then especially on the mobile keyboards they're using. And then the community for now has just asked everyone, all the contributors they have, to add in replacement another character. And then one of the contributors then goes and runs AWB, Auto Wiki Browser tool, to replace that with the correct tool from his computer. So basically, some of these characters, and when we're going to support new communities, new languages with getting their scripts online, we would need that kind of network as well. We would need people who can create design scripts. We will need people who have good connections with the UNESCO consortium. And then we will need this triangle as well. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Sadeep. Thank you. Yeah, it's so true. So I didn't include it here because it's so big that I almost get scared because it's really huge. But it's the way we have to go if we are gonna get all these languages available digitally. And yeah, I think that I actually skipped a slide earlier because I was just gonna remind all of us that are used to writing, that are so used to having our own keyboards, that it's so hard when you cannot, I mean, that they have to go through the system that you say, Sadeep, that everyone writes like a wrong letter and one person has to go in and correct all of them. I mean, imagine how it feels to not being able to express yourself properly with your language on the keyboard. I mean, it's a luxury that we have in some parts of the world, and now we want to give it to more. And I look forward to meet with Endangered Alphabets later. They signed up. Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to add what you just shared about not being able to write your own language on the internet. That's something that a lot of Indian communities have faced like a decade ago or so. Like we had to install specific keyboards on our devices to be able to specific input methods that we had to use, or like fonts which were not Unicode encoded. So we've gone through that phase, and then there are many more communities who are yet to start on that journey.
Yes. Yeah. No, and with the different technology, I downloaded the Sami keyboard to my phone. So now when I scroll through my different keyboards, I have Northern Sami there, and it was quite easy. And so through this collaboration, it will be very easy to download keyboards for mobile and for desktop. So I think it's a super important project, and maybe the more kind of concrete project that has come out of this research. And I look forward to work on it. So a little rhetorical question when we come to the end here, but Kirsten, please. Kirsten.
Oh yeah, so I just wanted to share an update from us. So Tochi and I got excited for reasons that relate to what we've been building when you shared people's feedback on trainings and how things can be difficult to navigate. So at WikiTongues the past few weeks, we've been working on building like a forum training hub space that will be hosted on our website. This idea actually came up during the International Year of Indigenous Languages because a lot of activists complained that although they could register as an activist, there wasn't really like a space to talk and communicate and share advice. And a lot of us tried to solve that by making like WhatsApp channels and Slack channels, and then it's all over the place and people get tired. So we have been building out a place where you can create a username, and log in. I can put my hand down now, can't I? And in that, it'll have like a forum space where people can communicate and ask questions with like different channels, kind of like Reddit type thing. But also we've been talking about creating modules that are like training modules. So those would be things like, we have a few different categories. So like documentation, so learning how to create oral histories and subtitling, more linguistics heavy things, because we can have these modules like certified or verified by different companies or universities to make them more credible. We're also talking about doing like personal development, so resume building or grant writing. And then Tochi has been working on developing a Wikimedia curriculum. So we were actually going to reach out to people in the group and see if anyone would like be interested in volunteering to help build out certain modules. So I don't remember the exact training ideas that Tochi came up with. We're working on that right now. But we could have, if people are interested in helping like lead and create a module, they're smaller and it can be things like different tools to navigate in the incubator, other things that are difficult to figure out as a new person. And this space is really geared towards activists who haven't used wiki tools before. So they're coming at it at an introductory phase, or maybe like 1 or 2 years into using Wikimedia, and they don't really understand like the talk pages and the editing and this, and like helping them get onboarded. We're testing it out right now. I just sent the link to Tochi and Daniel yesterday to test it out, like the forum hub space internally at WikiTongues. And then we plan on inviting other people to test it out like at the end of this month and give feedback, and then develop out more modules and training, and then make it public this summer. And it hosts an unlimited amount of people, so we could have thousands and thousands of users, which would be cool. So I'm hoping UNESCO will share it with their International Year Register mailing list. But anyways, we're very excited about it. And if you're interested in helping out, we'd love for people to train. And we'd also love to see the more detailed report of like things people were requesting for trainings, because then we can make sure to include that.
Yeah, that sounds so great. So interesting. Actually, me and Toshi is having a meeting next week, so I guess we can exchange more information then.
Yeah, and I'll also be reaching out to a couple of people who would be interested in volunteering some subjects to us. That'd be very cool. Please, kindly be open-minded. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. So this is a jumping to my rhetorical question from this, because is a language hub needed? Yes, the hub is needed, but not alone. Like it's a collaboration. And I always think that WikiTongues is doing so much good, and we have to be very close The hub can play a role in this collaboration with partners outside the movement, such as what we do now with Gelatechno. And we can think that maybe the hub can, that when we are starting developing the governance of the hub, we should think well on how to position the hub compared to all these others, like what should be the relation between the hub and Wikitongues. If we are able to define what roles we have, it's also easier to focus and be better at some core activities, so we don't start doing a bit of everything, like yeah, because then we might just spend a lot of energy doing something that someone else actually knows better than us. So I think that is yeah, but my conclusion, of course, is yes, and I hope it's your conclusion too. Okay, so to sum this up, the work done by the contributors to small language versions is remarkable, should be recognized, and it should be celebrated. And the biggest barriers we see are actually outside the wiki project. So we have to solve them, but of course there are internals too, and the courses and training sessions from Wikitongues will be a great addition. Linguists and language technologists outside the Wikimedia movement can have professional interest in this work or in what we are doing. I think that it's easy to forget that for us, that we think that we are only asking them for help or we want their services. But in fact, the chance to be able to work and test and create language models is something that would interest people. And this is according to Trond Trosterud, so that's not my own words, but I trust him on that. And also, I really believe within the movement, we have so much resources that can also be used to support all these emerging communities. And the hub can be one that helps to connecting the dots between us. I see there are chats, but yeah.
Yeah, it's mostly.
Yeah, good. So how can you engage? Last but not least, you can join us as an observer in the steering committee. I think now after this report, we have to start working with the governance, and we will of course invite people to join or to, yeah, it's an opening here to take a part in that work. And you can sign up on our meta page. If you don't have it, I have all the links in the next slides. You can join our network as a linguist or a language technologist if that is your interest. You can, if you have a project you want to do in your community or where you like, and it can be a smaller one for only 1 or 2 language versions, you can always invite the hub to be a part of your project. We can support you, we can be a part of it. You can join the Telegram groups to be a part of the conversation. I think most of you here are there, so that's okay. And if you have a language and you need keyboards and all these other digital tools, or basically going the route of the Gelatechno route, send us an email or let us know, so we will keep you in mind when we start that work. That was all. So I have added the links here, but you can also find we can share the slides, but you will find us easily in all of you here, you know already where to find us. That was my conclusion. Yes, that is the presentation. If you want to read the full report, of course, it's available. There is a lot more information there. And if there is any questions or you want to clarify something, for example, like what about the trainings, which I will have a look through the notes to see if I find. But any other questions as well, just reach out. We are really happy to share as much as we can about this. Yeah, and thank you everyone for coming. Any final questions or comments? Yes. The full report is on Meta, yes.
That was exactly what I wanted to ask.
Everything is on Meta, and it's also linked from our now the full report is linked from our Meta page, yeah, and it's on Commons. Yes. Good. Yes. Yeah, but then if there is no more comments, yeah, UNESCO is very good, I think. Very important partner. Okay, thank you everyone. We will share the video and later. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for the great work that you have been doing with us.
Thank you. And great work you've done too.
Bye.
Have a good weekend.
Yeah, see you Wednesday. Good weekend. Okay, I have to stop.
Can I
Huh?
stop recording?